the spirit that I was working with to come up with the cocktail was the Ryukyu Awamori, which was a unique challenge when coming up with a cocktail. It's not necessarily the ABV that was a challenge, although I was sort of able to normalize that. You'll see how in a moment. But that incredible subtlety, that purity of flavor, it's almost like taking a sip of distilled water that sort of melts into like those white flowers, pink flowers, that like underripe white peach note right on like across your tongue as you are savoring those first few sips. It's like pure water and then this like subtle like crescendo of flavor. So I didn't want to hide that in any way. So I thought about, traditional serves like the sodawari and how I could sort of take a Western format of drinks and marry this, incredibly subtle spirit with something familiar. And I came up with a drink I've just called the Awamori Highball. Looks deceptively simple, and it can be. I'll talk about how to make it at home. But the first thing that I wanted to do when creating this cocktail was normalize the ABV. Most cocktails that of the highball style, like a gin and tonic, if it's 2 ounces of 80 proof spirit and 4.5 ounces of tonic or soda, what have you, that's right around 12% alcohol. And I wanted to keep this final cocktail right in that range. So at 24%, I used 3 ounces of the awamori. So cocktail is absolutely terrific for depletions on a back bar. So it's 3 ounces of awamori and 3.5 ounces of modifier, which puts the finished drink right at like 11 and change percent, which is right where you want to be for this style of cocktail. And the second step was choosing ingredients that are not going to overpower the subtlety of the flavors. I wanted both complementary flavors and supplementary flavors that were going to bolster what's already there. So immediately I get that subtle white peach note was something that really jumped out to me. So I wanted to play with that primarily. And growing up as a kid, one of my all-time favorite beverages, like go to the mini mart and grab something, it was always a peach Snapple. So anytime I taste peach, I want to do peach and tea and bright acid together. So that's what I've done here. So my cocktail starts with 5 drops of a saline solution. So it's just 20 grams of salt and 80 grams of water. A little salt always just like adds that pop of flavor. It also helps the subtle umami backbone in the awamori show itself a little better. So I've got 5 drops of saline solution and then a 1/2 ounce of a Sudachi cordial that I've made. So I took Sudachi juice, clarified it in a centrifuge, added equal parts by weight, sugar, brought it up to a simmer with some lemon and lime peels, cut the heat, let that come back to room temp, and then added 30 grams of citric acid per liter of product. If you don't want to do that, I completely understand. You can just add a little bit of simple syrup and a little bit of Sudachi juice if you've got it. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Sudachi, it's a hybrid of mandarin orange and yuzu, which is absolutely lovely, floral, beautifully aromatic. It's my kind of secret favorite cocktail citrus. Unfortunately, it's very rare to find fresh in the States. So I did use a bottled product. You can find these at a lot of Asian markets, especially if you can find a Japanese market. So it's a pasteurized product, but I find that because it's such a floral, flavor dense citrus juice, that it's fine in these applications as a pasteurized product. So it's a 1/2 ounce of that Sudachi cordial that I made, and then an ounce of water. Because of the next ingredient being a little bit bold, I wanted to just give it some pure water just as an additional lengthener, and then 2 ounces of brewed tea. And the tea that I chose is a blended tea of Hojicha, which is roasted stems of green tea, and roasted rice. So I'm going back to that rice that's such a prominent flavor in the Awamori. I wanted to double up that, roasty toasty rice note while adding that, smoky complexity of the Hojicha tea. So it's that supplementary and complementary flavors that ultimately create this, not so snappily modern take on a peach snapple. Now, as I do, I combine all of those into a 1 liter soda bottle, and I've got my carbonation rig ready here. I've already got a batch of this cocktail that I've chilled down in the freezer, so it's almost frozen. And I've got my SodaStream carbonation rig here. Show you how to carbonate this one final time. It's almost ready to go. So, and I also have a recipe that I've designed with the same flavors, but just topping with club soda. The ratio is slightly different so that you maintain some of the bubbles. But if you've got a carbonation rig at home, I really recommend carbonating all the ingredients whenever you can, because when you're adding 3 ounces of a spirit to a cocktail, that's 3 ounces of liquid in the finished drink that won't have bubbles in it. So if you can add the bubbles to it, why not? I think it's only going to add to the quality of the finished drink. So just right over some large cubes, I'm just giving that a moment for the bubbles to settle. I think that should be just fine. I'll crack that open so it doesn't foam too aggressively. And we'll just go ahead and pour that into a highball glass. So there's a lot of work on the front end. So if you were to serve this at a bar, it would be a very quick serve during service, because you just have to open the bottle and pour. It's a lot of work behind the scenes to create a really delicious, really simple serve for your friends and family or in a bar setting. So cheers.